Dunkleosteus wasn't wiped out. It was played to death by the entire Earth. This is the most ironic joke in evolutionary history. 360 million years ago, there was a 4-meter-long monster in the ocean. It had no teeth, but its bite force could snap any prey in two. You think it relied on pure strength? Wrong. It relied on two bony blades welded to its face. When they reconstructed its bite force, the data left everyone speechless. 4,400 newtons. What does that mean? How much pressure can your skull take? 800 newtons. If it takes one bite of you, your head would explode like a watermelon. But the most terrifying thing isn't how fierce it was, but the way it ate. Dunkleosteus only needed 0.02 seconds to open its mouth 1/10 of a blink. Before the prey could even react, it had already been sucked into its mouth and shredded into pieces. Marine life of that era, upon seeing a Dunkleosteus, had only one reaction: don't run. Running is useless. But despite being such an elite apex killer, it suddenly went extinct 360 million years ago. Why? Before answering this question, you first need to know a spine-chilling truth. A new study from 2023 has completely overturned our perception. Previously, everyone thought Dunkleosteus could reach a length of 10 meters. But after remeasurement, it was discovered that its actual length was only 3.4 to 4.1 meters. You heard that right. This ocean overlord wasn't even as long as a car. But this is definitely not good news. Rather, it's the beginning of a nightmare, because its weight didn't decrease with its length. A 3.4-meter Dunkleosteus weighed between 950 to 1,200 kilograms. What does that mean? A family car only weighs about 1,500 kilograms. What does this imply? It means Dunkleosteus wasn't a long, lean hunter, but a swimming wrecking ball. Its body density was extremely high, and its muscle tissue was exceptionally developed. It was like compressing the weight of an adult bull into the body of a medium-sized fish. The even more terrifying news comes next. Research from April 2023 revealed that Dunkleosteus's mouth was absurdly large. A 4-meter-long Dunkleosteus had a mouth width equivalent to an 8-meter-long shark. Imagine this scene: a monster shorter than a sedan, with an open mouth that could swallow an adult dolphin. This proportion completely defies common sense. It's like giving a human a mouth that could swallow a refrigerator. This was the most horrifying part of Dunkleosteus. It could attack prey far larger than itself. Its weapon system was brutally simple to the point of despair. Dunkleosteus had no teeth, that's true, but it didn't need them at all. Its upper and lower jaws directly formed two sharp bony plates. The edges were as sharp as industrial shears. The bite force reached a staggering 4,400 newtons. That's equivalent to a small car pressing down inside your mouth. Moreover, these two bony plates rubbed against each other with every bite, making the edges sharper and sharper. It's just like sharpening a pair of scissors every time you use them. The longer a Dunkleosteus lived, the sharper its weapons became. Fossil evidence shows that the edges of some elderly Dunkleosteus bony plates were as sharp as surgical scalpels. Most terrifying was its bite speed. Dunkleosteus used a mechanism called a 4-bar linkage bite system. The sophistication of this system wasn't fully understood until modern engineering. Through this system, Dunkleosteus could open and close its mouth in 20 to 60 milliseconds. It takes a human 150 milliseconds to blink once. That means by the time you blink once, it has already bitten you 2 or 3 times. This speed brought not just lethality, but a kind of psychological terror, because you simply couldn't see its attack coming. But the true killing blow was the negative pressure generated when it opened its mouth. When Dunkleosteus opened its massive mouth at this insane speed, it created an instantaneous vacuum suction in front of its mouth. This suction would pull everything in the vicinity inside. Calculations show that the water speed generated by this suction can reach over 15 meters per second. What does that mean? It's equivalent to the wind speed of a Category 5 hurricane. So, when facing a Dunkleosteus, it doesn't even need to catch up to you. As long as you are within 5 meters in front of it, the moment it opens its mouth, you'll be like dust meeting an industrial vacuum cleaner, flying directly into its throat. Moreover, because the speed is so fast, you won't even feel yourself moving. You'll just suddenly find yourself inside its mouth. And then the bony plates close. Game over. The entire process takes less than a second. You won't even have time to feel pain. Those two bony blades will snap shut with incredible force, slicing you apart right down to the molecular level. It's not tearing. It's not crushing. It's like a laser cutting machine, slicing through clean and sharp. Now, let's talk about its defense system. The head and front half of the Dunkleosteus were covered in bony armor, up to several centimeters thick. This armor material is called dermal bone, with a hardness close to human teeth. This means that in that era, no weapon could penetrate its defenses. Fossil studies show that some Dunkleosteus armor bears marks of attacks from other predators, but they are only shallow scratches, incapable of causing any real damage. But the cleverest design is this. The back half of its body had no armor, covered instead by soft muscle. This front-heavy backlight design gave it surprisingly good maneuverability in the water. The front armor provided protection and stability, while the rear muscles provided explosive power and flexibility. In modern engineering, this design is referred to as a perfect mechanical structure. The body shape of a Dunkleosteus wasn't like ordinary fish. It was more like a tuna. It had a thick torso, a powerful tail fin, and a streamlined body. What does this body design mean? It means the Dunkleosteus was an explosive hunter. It didn't need long chases. It relied on instant explosive power and its massive mouth for a one-hit kill. It was like a mobile hydraulic ram, specifically looking for hard bones to crack in the sea. Furthermore, the eyes of the Dunkleosteus were very special. Fossils show that its eye sockets were very large, meaning it had a pair of very large eyes. What do large eyes mean in a deep-sea environment? It means it could clearly see prey in the dim light of deep waters. It was not only a powerful killer, but also a keen hunter. It could spot you in the dark, and before you could even see it clearly, it would have already launched its attack. Moreover, Dunkleosteus was found all over the globe, from North America to Europe, and from Africa to Asia. It was present in almost all late Devonian seas. It was everywhere. The Cleveland Museum of Natural History houses the highest quality Dunkleosteus fossils in the world. Among them is a complete skull fossil, 70 centimeters long, and weighing over 50 kilograms. Just by looking at this skull, you can feel the terror it once inspired. During those 50 million years, no matter where on Earth you entered the water, there was a high probability of encountering this tank of the water. They were numerous, widely distributed, and lived for a long time. Fossil evidence shows that a Dunkleosteus could live for decades, and some might have even lived for over 100 years. Imagine a century-old Dunkleosteus ruling the ocean. Its bony blades would be sharpened to perfection, its hunting skills mastered to a lethal art. It had seen countless prey and consumed countless creatures. A monster like this was the true overlord of the ocean. What was the ocean like in that era? Imagine traveling back 360 million years to the Devonian period. You would find that 85% of the Earth's surface was ocean, exactly 15% more than today. If you brought those sea levels to the present day, Beijing, Shanghai, and New York would all be underwater. The entire Earth was a massive water world. Land was merely small islands dotted throughout the ocean. That was a true water world. and Dunkleosteus was the absolute overlord of this water world. It ruled the oceans for as long as 50 million years. What does this number represent? Human civilization has a history of only 10,000 years. The reign of Dunkleosteus was 5,000 times longer than human civilization. Dinosaurs ruled the earth for 160 million years, but the dominance of Dunkleosteus in the ocean was even more stable than that of dinosaurs on land. During these long 50 million years, Dunkleosteus stood at the very top of the food chain. It had no natural enemies and no rivals. It ate whatever it wanted to eat. Fossil evidence shows that Dunkleosteus would actively attack prey of similar size, or even larger. It was not a picky eater and was fearless. As long as it was meat, it would eat it. What's even more terrifying is that Dunkleosteus would also practice cannibalism. In the fossil layers, multiple Dunkleosteus were found buried together with the crushed remains of their own kind. This indicates that Dunkleosteus not only preyed on other creatures, but did not even spare its own species. It might have been due to a lack of food. It might have been due to territorial disputes, or it might have been out of pure ferocity. In short, in the world of Dunkleosteus, survival of the fittest was performed to the extreme. Imagine that scene. In the dark, deep sea, a Dunkleosteus wanders in search of prey. Its bony armor glimmers with a faint, eerie light. Under the dim illumination, its giant mouth ready to open at any moment. It doesn't need to be fast, because its explosive power is strong enough. It doesn't need to be sneaky, because it is clad in heavy armor and fears nothing. It only needs to wait, waiting for prey to enter its attack range. Its large eyes scan through the darkness, looking for any sign of movement. Once it locks onto a target, it will slowly approach, maintaining a distance of 5 meters. Then, in the moment the prey is completely defenseless, it suddenly explodes in 0.02 seconds. The giant mouth opens. A vacuum suction is created. The prey is sucked in. The bone plates close, and everything ends. This was the hunting style of Dunkleosteus. Simple and crude, highly efficient, without flashy skills or complex tactics. It was pure aesthetics of violence. But such a perfect killing machine, such an overlord that ruled the oceans for 50 million years, suddenly disappeared entirely 360 million years ago. The entire Placoderm class went extinct at the end of the Devonian period. Not a single species survived into the next era. This is one of the greatest mysteries in evolutionary history, and also one of the most ironic stories. Why exactly was this? The answer is hidden in a disaster that lasted for millions of years. At the end of the Devonian, Earth underwent a massive environmental upheaval. This change did not happen in an instant, but was composed of multiple catastrophic events, lasting for millions of years. This disaster is known as the Late Devonian Extinction, one of the 5 mass extinctions in Earth's history. The first blow was ocean deoxygenation. The oceans at that time experienced a severe anoxia event. Massive amounts of algae died and decomposed, consuming the oxygen in the water. The seawater turned into deathly silent black water, with extremely low oxygen content. This hypoxia was not local, but global. From shallow seas to deep oceans, from coastal waters to the open sea, the entire ocean was suffocating. Large predators like Dunkleosteus require huge amounts of oxygen to maintain their bodily functions. It weighed over a ton, had developed muscles, and an extremely fast metabolism. This meant its demand for oxygen was incredibly high. The amount of oxygen a Dunkleosteus needed daily was equivalent to twice that of a modern great white shark. In a hypoxic environment, Dunkleosteus was like being thrown into a sealed space without air. They swam desperately, trying to find oxygen-rich waters. But the entire ocean was depleted of oxygen. There was nowhere to escape. They swam to the shallow seas, only to find the oxygen there was also insufficient. They swam to the deep sea, only to find it was even more hypoxic. They could only keep swimming, opening its mouth constantly, trying to extract a tiny bit of oxygen from the black water. The second blow was evidence of drastic climate change, showing that the Earth entered an ice age at that time. The seawater temperature plummeted. As a cold-blooded animal, Dunkleosteus' metabolism slowed down as the water temperature dropped. Its mobility decreased significantly. Its muscles became stiff, and its reactions became sluggish. That sophisticated four-bar linkage mechanism also became less flexible in the low temperatures. A slow-moving predator would soon starve to death. Moreover, Dunkleosteus needed a massive amount of energy to maintain that body weighing over a ton. The drop in water temperature meant it needed more food, but its hunting ability was declining. It was a vicious cycle. The colder it got, the more energy it needed. The harder it was to hunt, the weaker it became. The third blow was the collapse of the food chain. The Devonian mass extinction. The Devonian mass extinction caused approximately 75% of marine life to vanish. Dunkleosteus' food sources were drastically reduced. Fossil evidence shows that Dunkleosteus needed to prey on large animals, but large prey bore the brunt of the mass extinction. Those massive creatures were the most sensitive to environmental changes. They were the first to disappear. Dunkleosteus began to starve. A predator weighing over a ton required a vast amount of food every day. It is estimated that an adult Dunkleosteus needed to eat food equivalent to 5% of its own body weight daily. That is to say, a 1,000 kilograms Dunkleosteus had to eat 50 kilograms of meat every day. But there was no longer enough prey in the ocean. They swam slower and slower. Their bodies grew weaker and weaker. That heavy bony armor turned from protection into a burden. Most ironically, the culprit behind all this turned out to be plants on land. During the Devonian period, plants flourished on a massive scale on land. This was the first time in Earth's history that the land was covered by a large scale of green. Vast forests were performing photosynthesis, constantly consuming carbon dioxide. Plant roots were constantly breaking down rocks, extracting nutrients from minerals. These nutrients were washed into the ocean by rain, causing algae to grow wildly and triggering massive red tides. The algae died and decomposed, consuming the oxygen in the seawater. This was a chain reaction. The more the plants flourished, the more nutrients and algae there were, and the more severe the oxygen depletion became. At the same time, the reduction of carbon dioxide led to a decrease in the Earth's ability to retain heat. Temperatures began to fall. The Ice Age arrived. Plants on land were thriving, creating a green world. But the overlord of the ocean was heading toward death, trapped in a dark, oxygen-deprived cage. Under the triple blow of hypoxia, cooling, and hunger, Dunkleosteus could no longer hold on. This overlord that ruled the ocean for 50 million years completely went extinct about 360 million years ago. This process lasted for millions of years, but for the species Dunkleosteus, it was an unimaginably long torture. Imagine the scene of the last Dunkleosteus. It swam with difficulty in the dark, oxygen-poor water. That once indestructible bony armor now became a heavy burden. It opened its giant mouth, trying to inhale more oxygen, but there was no longer enough oxygen in the seawater. Its vision began to blur, and its body began to sink. Its body grew heavier and heavier, its movement slower and slower. It wanted to swim upward, to the bright and shallow sea, but its body would no longer obey. Eventually, it sank to the seabed. That giant mouth that once terrified countless creatures closed forever, never to open again. Just like that, one of the most powerful marine predators in Earth's history vanished into the long river of history. The legend that ruled the ocean for 50 million years came to an end in the oxygen-deprived black water. But Dunkleosteus didn't truly disappear. Because in those 50 million years, it left a profound mark on this planet. Those creatures that struggled to survive under the shadow of Dunkleosteus, every time they narrowly escaped death, a mark was left in their genes. Every close encounter with that giant mouth made their nervous systems more sensitive. Every time they heard the sound of water currents, it made their hearts race. These marks crossed 360 million years. Through 600 million years and countless generations, it was finally passed down to you. A 2019 study discovered that there is a primitive fear circuit in the human brain, specifically designed to imprint a reaction to deep water. Tracing the origin of this code, it was found to date back to the Devonian period. This means your current thalassophobia, fear of the deep sea, is not a psychological issue at all, but rather deep within your genes, lives an ancestor from 400 million years ago. It is reaching across time and space, screaming in your ear, "Run! There is something in the water!" That something has a massive mouth and two bone-shattering blades, capable of sucking you in the blink of an eye, and feel an inexplicable chill. Don't find it strange. Don't find it strange. That isn't just you being afraid. It's your ancestor inside your DNA reminding you. 360 million years ago, there was something in this water. It didn't need to be huge. 4 meters long was enough. It didn't need to be fast. Strong explosive power was sufficient. It only needed a mouth larger than its own body and a set of bony plates that could bite through anything. It just needed you to get within 5 meters. Then it would open its mouth, and it's all over. Research from 2023 tells us that although Dunkleosteus wasn't as long as we imagined, it was still the most terrifying predator of the Devonian oceans. With a smaller body, a larger mouth, and a stronger bite force, it proved one truth. In the arena of evolution, what matters isn't how big you are, but how lethal your weapons are. Dunkleosteus is the perfect proof of this principle. It wasn't the largest, but it was the deadliest. With a 4-meter body, it ruled the entire ocean for 50 million years. This is the true story of Dunkleosteus, an epic of dominance and destruction, a legend of power and vulnerability. It tells us that even the most powerful creatures on Earth can appear fragile in the face of drastic environmental changes. Dunkleosteus wasn't defeated. It was pushed to extinction by the changing global environment. The prosperity of plants brought an abundance of oxygen, but it also led to ocean deoxygenation. The greening of the land caused climate shifts, ultimately sealing the fate of the ocean's overlord. The collapse of the food chain stripped the top predators of their foundation for survival. This is the most ironic joke in evolutionary history, and nature's most profound warning. No matter how powerful a creature is, it cannot withstand the environmental changes of an entire planet. Power is not eternal. Even tyrants will fall. The only constant is change itself. Dunkleosteus ruled the oceans for 50 million years, yet disappeared entirely in just a few million years. On a geological timescale, this speed is but a fleeting moment. But for every individual Dunkleosteus, it was a long and painful ordeal. They watched the seawater turn murky day by day, watched their prey become scarce day by day, and watched their own bodies grow weaker day by day. They didn't understand what was happening, only that the world was becoming increasingly alien. Hunting that was once effortless now became harder and harder. Waters that were once full of life now became deathly silent. Eventually, the very last Dunkleosteus sank to the seabed, ending the 50 million year legend of this species. But its story did not end, because the market left on this planet still exists to this day. Everyone who stands by the sea and feels fear, everyone who dares not go into deep water, everyone who has had nightmares of being chased by deep-sea monsters, the shadow of Dunkleosteus is hidden in their genes. That fear was not created out of thin air. It is a warning bought by ancestors with their lives. This is the legacy Dunkleosteus left to the world, Not fossils, not bones, but the fear etched into your DNA. This fear has traveled through 360 million years from the Devonian oceans to you today. It is older than any written record, more real than any history. So next time you stand by the sea and feel that inexplicable surge of terror, please remember that it is a survival guide written with the lives of your ancestors. It is reminding you there was once a monster in the depths of the ocean, a monster that ruled the world with 2 bone blades. Although it has been gone for 360 million years, its legend is forever etched in your genes. This legend tells you that the ocean is not human territory. There are horrors in the deep sea that we cannot comprehend. Within 5 meters underwater, it might just be the distance to death. This is Dunkleosteus, a fear spanning 360 million years, a legend that will never be forgotten.